Hello to everyone, my name is Trivellato Riccardo and today we'll talk about the necessity of introducing emotional education in Italian schools. Parents should educate their children on affection. Loving does not mean possessing. These were the words spoken by Elena Cecchettin just 9 days after her sister Giulia was murdered. The murderer was her ex-boyfriend who could not accept the end of their relationship. Giulia's tragic death, however, is not an isolated case. In 2023, there were 120 femicides in Italy, with over half of them committed by former partners or husbands of the victim. Today, I want to discuss the crucial need for emotional education in Italian schools, because I truly believe that teaching children to understand and manage their emotions can lead to healthier relationships and a safer society. In today's presentation, I will start by introducing the problem, the lack of emotional education and awareness, and its serious consequences, such as unhealthy relationships and violence. Next, we'll identify the key stakeholders involved. These are the people who have been affected by the problem or have the power to change the situation. Then, we'll discuss the current leadership and interventions already in place. These efforts represent the initial attempts to repair the system. And finally, I'll present my proposed solutions, both small-scale and large-scale initiatives, needed to fully restore and strengthen our educational system. According to ISTAT, the Italian National Institute of Statistics, almost 15% of women aged between 16 and 70 have experienced some form of violence from a current or a former partner. The issue, in my opinion, is cultural. In Italy, relationships are often viewed as ownership rather than partnership, with women seen as possessions rather than partners. The victims, however, of this lack of emotional intelligence in relationships are not only women. In fact, issues such as toxic relationships can affect also men. However, during my research, I was really surprised to notice that in Italy at least there were no statistics, no newspaper, no articles talking about toxic relationships from the point of view of the male, because toxic relationships are a problem for both gender. This, in my opinion, indicates that the issue is not yet fully understood or acknowledged in my country. The last of statistics suggests that there is still a long way to recognize and address the impact of this problem on all individuals, regardless of the gender. But why I choose this topic? Well, this issue is deeply personal to me. A close friend of mine was a victim of violence from her partner after their breakup. Witnessing her transformation from an outgoing, joyful person to a girl that struggles to connect with others was traumatizing to me. Additionally, in my past relationship, I developed emotional dependencies toward my partner, relying on my partner to fill my voids and insecurities. Although not related to violence, I believe that with a proper education, I could have handled these situations in a more healthy and clear way. In fact, I do believe that emotional education is crucial not only to prevent violence, but also to foster healthier relationships overall. Here is a map of stakeholders involved in this issue, categorized by their power to implement real solutions and their proximity to the issues. Starting with policymakers, they are the persons that are empowered to implement laws mandating emotional education in schools. However, they often have different priorities and ignore the issues. Educational authorities, such as school boards and administrators, can implement policies and curricula that include emotional education, but are constrained by budget limitation and time limitation, since they also need to ensure that the students receive an adequate education on classical subjects, so they don't have enough time. Advocacy groups and activists are on the front lines, raising awareness and providing supports to victims. They are dedicated to promoting emotional education to positively impact the society. By seeking to influence policymakers and public opinion, they aim to create systemic change in the environment. They also work closely with victims and advocates for policy reforms. Victims of violence and their families are the individuals that have been directly impacted by the lack of emotional education in our country. Their stories and experiences highlight the urgent need to a change, although they have limited influence to drive systemic change. Unaware people are those people that are unaware or disinterested on this topic. They represent a significant portion of the population. But if correctly engaged and informed by advocacy group and activists, they can influence policymakers' priority and drive meaningful changes. And for the last, we have next generation. They are the primary beneficiaries of the introduction of emotional education in our school system. They represent the future. Ensuring that they grow up with a solid understanding of emotional intelligence can prevent future violence. But how can implement emotional education in our schools? Let's first look at what has already been done. Some initiatives are in place, but mainly driven by individual schools, so there is not something coordinated on a national level. For example, the Comprehensive Institute of Chignolo Po has implemented a comprehensive approach to social and emotional learning in students' curriculum. Also, we have SCOSSE Association, led by Monica Pasquino, that conducts interactive workshops in 13 Italian high schools to raise awareness about emotional education and stereotypes. These workshops are led by experts in adolescent emotional education. The only national initiative was introduced by Minister Varditara after the case of Giulia's Cecchettin. With the project called Education on Relationships, the project provides funds to pay teachers for conducting up to 30 extracurricular hours in each high school, but the participation for each high school is optional. And however, this initiative has been criticized for relying on regular teachers instead of mental health professionals experienced with adolescents. Also, experts like the psychoanalyst Massimo Ammaniti emphasize the need for trained professionals to lead this program and suggest starting emotional education before high school. Additionally, there is not a well-defined program. Each teacher can decide what to do in these 30 extracurriculum hours, and this results in a lack of uniformity in the program's implementation among all the Italian schools that decide to adhere to this project. Talking about my proposals, on small scale, I think that local activists and advocacy groups should run awareness campaigns aimed at informing the unaware majority. As previously mentioned, um, if if the unaware majority is correctly engaged, this group can influence policymakers' priorities. And it's also crucial to raise awareness about toxic relationships in general that encompass more than just violence against women. Additionally, more schools should invite experts in emotional education to conduct interactive workshops, following the example of SCOSSE project. On large scale, I believe that policymakers should introduce national mandates to incorporate emotional education into the formal school curriculum. This should involve psychologists and experts rather than regular teachers to ensure that the programs are both effective but also uniform among all the country. Furthermore, allocating funds to support this individual is crucial, ensuring that schools have the necessary resources to operate. In this context, a strong leader is essential to drive the proposed initiatives forward. To successfully mobilize public opinion, the strategies involved must be mobilize the public opinion, as already said, and engage with policymakers is also crucial. But for these strategies to be effective, the leader must possess some certain key skills. Strong communication skills are necessary to convey the importance of emotional education to various stakeholders. But also networking abilities are important to build a network of advocacy groups, activists and victims, facilitating collaboration and support. Organizational skills are equally important to manage a unified, cohesive movement, coordinating efforts across different regions to maximize the impact of the project. To conclude, thanks to the introduction of emotional education in school, I imagine a world where relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding, and where love enriches both partners' lives rather than filling emotional voids. In this world, love is not about possession, but mutual growth and support. People are taught that no is a healthy boundary rather than a personal failure, and there is no fear of expressing emotion or facing rejection. Thank you for the listening.